Welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast. You've sent us a truly fascinating collection of source material today. These are excerpts from Charles Dickens' Bleak House.
A classic, but one that fits our theme perfectly.
Exactly. It depicts a world we sort of recognize, Victorian London, but the situations, the characters, they often feel just a little off.
Unsettlingly familiar, you might say.
Precisely. It's a really compelling example of that uncanny valley idea, where something looks familiar but feels profoundly alien. So this should be perfect for our discussion today. Our mission, as always, is to navigate this rich landscape of information you provided, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights, and give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Think of us as guides, maybe.
Yes, your expert guides through this literary labyrinth of Victorian London. We want to help you see not just what happens, but understand why it matters and how, maybe surprisingly, it still resonates today.
Indeed. Because today, we're not just, reading a story. We're stepping into a world where the legal system doesn't just take up time, it actually consumes entire lives.
It sounds intense.
It is. And we'll explore how the social structures create these strange, almost paradoxical figures.
And the secrets?
Oh, the secrets. Deep-seated personal secrets echoing through generations, shaping destinies. We'll really dig into how Dickens crafts this uncanny valley within the narrative itself.
Making the familiar feel alien.
Exactly. And why that unsettling feeling, that specific kind of discomfort, still gets under our skin today.
Okay, so the sources you've shared, they paint an incredibly vivid picture. We're moving from, the oppressive London fog,
Which is almost a character in itself.
to these grand but clearly decaying country estates, and then deep into the heart of this seemingly endless legal battle.
Jarndyce and Jarndyce.
Right. So throughout our conversation, we'll be pulling out the key figures, those pivotal moments, and maybe those surprising little details that really illuminate the societal critiques Dickens was making.
So, get ready to see Victorian England and maybe even our own world through a startlingly new and, yes, definitely uncanny filter.
A world engulfed by fog and futility. The Court of Chancery?
Okay, let's really try to unpack this world Dickens is presenting, starting not even with people, but with the atmosphere, the very air.
The fog.
The fog, yes. The sources start by describing fog everywhere, and it's made clear this isn't just physical fog. It's not just, bad weather.
No, it's suffocating. Relentless. It gets into everything.
We hear about fog up the river, where it flows among green aits and meadows, fog down the river, where it rolls defiled among the tiers of shipping and the waterside pollutions of a great and dirty city.
And it's not just the fog, is it? There's the mud, too.
Right. Crust upon crust of mud, sticking at those points tenaciously to the pavement and accumulating at compound interest. You can almost feel it reading that. The grit, the dampness.
That oppressive weight. It's designed to make you feel something deeper than just, oh, it's a cloudy day.
Definitely. It's a whole sensory experience.
And Dickens isn't just being atmospheric here, though he is doing that brilliantly. He's showing us, in this really dense, palpable way, how a system, when it loses its clarity, its purpose.
Like the legal system here.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
can literally become a suffocating, almost poisonous environment for anyone caught up in it. The fog and mud aren't just background details, they're symbols.
Symbols of what, exactly?
Of the moral and legal quagmire. The confusion, the obscurity that traps everyone. It immediately gives you the sense of unease, of stagnation.
Like nothing can move forward.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
A world where clarity is impossible. Progress is just choked by layers of accumulated filth, much like the legal documents piling up in Chancery.
Ah, okay, so the setting directly reflects the court.
Correctly. Dickens actually describes the court of Chancery itself as a deadened world, and its growth is sometimes unhealthy for want of air.
Wow, that's blunt.
It is. Stagnation doesn't just stop things, it actively sickens them. It erodes health, spirit, morality. The very air is thick with injustice, metaphorically speaking.
So the familiar London becomes alien, uncanny.
Yes, alien in its pervasive gloom and obstruction.
And right at the heart of this fog and mud, equally obscured, sits the Lord High Chancellor in his High Court of Chancery.
Presiding over the infamous case.
Jarndyce and Jarndyce. And the description of this case, this suit, is just astounding. It's gone on for so long, become so tangled.
Yeah, it's basically a joke, right?
Yeah, the sources say the last Lord Chancellor handled it neatly by saying it would only end when the sky rained potatoes.
Which is, never.
Exactly. It's become this cynical joke, a legend in legal circles. Even the articled clerks, the trainees,
The legal apprentice.
they've been in the habit of fleshing their legal wit upon it. Imagine something so serious, something ruining lives, becoming a punchline.
It's startling. It really makes you ask, what kind of legal system allows that? Allows a case to become a legend, a sort of pleasantry for insiders,
While at the same time,
simultaneously stretching forth its unwholesome hand to spoil and corrupt countless actual lives.
so the sources portray it less as a system seeking justice.
And more like a monstrous self-perpetuating entity, a machine that just feeds on itself and the people caught in its gears.
It's not about solving the problem.
No, it's about maintaining its own existence, extracting fees, prolonging the uncertainty, absorbing all the hope, all the resources. Its very nature is to create that deadened world, stifling any healthy resolution.
That sounds profoundly unsettling. Familiar form, but twisted function.
That's the uncanny element right there.
And the impact on the suitors at bay, the people actually involved, waiting for this non-existent judgment, it's profound.
Devastating.
We learn the receiver and the cause, the guy managing the disputed estate, he has acquired a goodly sum of money by it, but has acquired, too, a distrust of his own mother and a contempt for his own kind.
Even profiting from it corrupts you.
And even the lawyers, Dickens calls them chisel, mizzle, or otherwise, they've just lapsed into a habit of vaguely promising themselves that they will look into that outstanding little matter.
It's become normalized. The delay, the inefficiency, it's a bureaucracy completely detached from human reality.
Devouring not just money, but relationships, integrity.
It speaks volumes about the corrosive power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When even those benefiting are warped, left cynical about humanity itself.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, it's a massive indictment.
A scathing indictment of a system that actively corrodes morality. It's not just financial ruin, though, that's bad enough. It's the spiritual, the ethical decay it inflicts.
And the language used to describe it.
Oh, it's incredibly vivid.
Yeah.
The Stutz effect is like being ground to bits in a slow mill. It's being roasted at a slow fire. It's being stung to death by single bees. It's being drowned by drops. It's going mad by grains.
It sounds agonizing. Slow torture.
It captures that agonizing, drawn-out process perfectly, systematically dismantling lives piece by piece. And Dickens, with his typical genius, he even coins a word for it.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Wigglomeration.
Wigglomeration.
Yeah, it's his brilliant combination, capturing the ridiculously ceremonious, wordy, unsatisfactory, and expensive nature of Chancery.
So it's like tangled wigs and agglomeration, ceremony and mess.
Something like that. Imagine a legal system so convoluted, so wrapped in red tape, it just serves itself. The process is the product, resolution is, well, secondary.
That wigglomeration, that's what makes it uncanny. It looks like a court, but it acts like a torture device.
Exactly. So what does this mean for the people caught in its web? You said it earlier. They're less clients and more victims.
Yeah, victims slowly dissolving into the system itself. Is there any way out, any agency for them? Or are they just powerless?
That's where the uncanny valley idea hits so hard. It's not just that the system is bad, it's that it looks like justice. It claims to provide resolution.
But the outcome is the opposite.
Profoundly opposite. It's the familiar facade of law hiding this monstrous, devouring machine. That's deeply unsettling because it should help, but it destroys.
So, no agency then?
For many, Dickens shows us there's very little. Their lives are consumed by this abstract process with no real hope. They slowly dissolve. They aren't clients. They are victims, eroded by hope deferred.
The system doesn't do justice, it just does the system.
You got it.
Esther Summerson, The Unlikely Protagonist's Journey.
Okay, so moving from the system to the people within it. Our main guide through this foggy, legally entangled mess is Esther Summerson.
Right, our narrator for a large part of the book.
And her early life, as the sources describe it, sounds pretty bleak itself. Raised by an austere godmother.
Whose frown remained unsoftened even after death. Charming.
Not really. And worse, Esther herself felt sensible of filling a place in her house which ought to have been empty.
Like she didn't belong, wasn't wanted.
And that she needed to expiate an offense of which she was quite innocent. That's a huge psychological burden for a child.
Feeling inherently unworthy, guilty for just existing, it shapes her entire perspective from the start.
It really does.
But what's crucial about Esther, despite that harsh, emotionally barren upbringing, is her internal resolution. She decides to be industrious, contented, and kind-hearted, and to do some good to someone and win some love to myself if I could.
Wow, that's quite something given the circumstances.
It really is. This innate goodness, this desire to be useful, it stands in such stark contrast to the corrupting world she's about to enter.
It makes her a unique lens to view it all through. Grounded, resilient.
Exactly. Her resolution is personal, forged in adversity. It gives her a moral compass that, frankly, many other characters lack. She's a beacon of practical goodness.
Then suddenly, things change drastically for her.
The gentleman in black with the white neckcloth arrives.
Mr. Kench? And he offers Esther a place at a first-rate establishment for her education, acting for a guardian she never knew she had. Mr. Jarndyce.
And her reaction is pure confusion.
Right, completely. Did you say, ma'am? Of your guardian, Mr. Jarndyce, she asks, so bewildered that someone has to give her smelling salts.
It's such a sudden shift from neglect to this almost unbelievable benevolent intervention. It throws her completely off balance.
It feels almost like a fairy tale.
Doesn't it? That transition from isolation to suddenly having a guardian and a whole scheme of pursuits arranged, it sets up Bleak House, the estate, as this potential sanctuary.
A place of warmth against the London chill.
A place where she hopes she can finally fulfill that desire to be useful, to discharge her duty in that station of life into which it has pleased, shall I say, Providence, to call her.
But that sudden shift itself,
Yeah.
it feels a bit uncanny, too. Too good to be true.
Exactly. It hints that there's more going on beneath the surface. Hidden connections, secrets, which of course there are. This abrupt, seemingly perfect change carries that subtle unease.
So she arrives at Bleak House, and the description is just lovely.
A complete contrast to the fog and mud.
Yes, light and warmth and comfort, with its hospitable jingle at a distance of preparations for dinner, with the face of its generous master brightening everything we saw.
Sounds like a true refuge.
It does. And Mr. Jarndyce himself, the guardian. Richard describes him as a bluff, rosy fellow, and Ada praises his noble generosity of his character, which she had said was to be trusted above all earthly things.
This portrayal is absolutely critical. Jarndyce is the moral compass in this messed up world.
A counterpoint to Chancery.
Definitely. He's someone desirous to aid any work that is considered likely to be a good work. He actively tries to fight against what he calls the east wind.
The east wind, what's that?
It's his personal metaphor for everything unpleasant, cynical, corrupting, especially the Chancery suit and its effects.
How does he fight it?
Well, sometimes by retreating to his growlery, his study, or by rubbing his head in frustration. It's very human, very kind. He embodies practicality, genuine kindness.
A direct opposite to the legal labyrinth.
Exactly. Bleak House, under him, becomes a place of light, warmth, grounded reality, almost uncanny normalcy in a profoundly abnormal world.
And Esther fits right in. She becomes Dame Durden.
Mr. Jarndyce's affectionate nickname for her, because she's the practical, sensible heart of the household. Mild as she's game, and as game as she's mild, he says.
But even in this haven, she's carrying things, secrets.
Heavy burdens. The mystery of her own parents, the troubles of Richard and Ada, who are caught up in the suit.
And she still struggles with that feeling of filling a place which ought to have been empty.
Yes. She's the stable center outwardly, but inwardly she's grappling with her identity, the impact of secrets.
And as the narrator, we see it all through her eyes. Compassionate, but often bewildered.
Very human eyes. And then she goes through that terrible illness, likely smallpox.
Right, the disfigurement. The sources say, I had never been a beauty, and I never thought myself one, but I had been very different from this. It was all gone now.
Her initial reluctance to even look in a mirror. Knowing the extent of the alteration in it better than I had done at first, the absent-avenal mirrors in her room. It highlights the personal cost.
But also her resilience, you said.
Absolutely. The physical change mirrors her internal transformation. She eventually finds acceptance, realizes how little I had lost when the wide world was so full of delight for me.
Finding beauty beyond looks.
Focusing on internal worth, it reinforces her role as the symbol of enduring hope and practical goodness in a world obsessed with appearances.
A comforting counter-narrative to the uncanniness.
Exactly. Finding purpose and beauty amidst loss.
The illusions of Hope, Richard Carstone, and the suit's infatuation.
Okay, let's shift focus now to Richard Carstone, another ward living at Bleak House.
Right. And he starts out, well, very differently from Esther. Full of energy, but aimless.
Yeah, uncertain of his path, he flits between careers. Law seems appealing because articled clerks go a good deal on the water. It's a capital profession.
Not exactly a deep vocational calling.
Not at all. Then he considers being a surgeon, crying, "That's the thing, sir,"
Hmm.
having, as the source says, never once thought of it before.
He's described as sanguine, ardent, overleaping obstacles, bursting with poetry like a young bud. Lots of potential, lots of vigor.
But totally directionless,
Yeah.
easily swayed by superficial stuff.
Which makes him incredibly vulnerable, doesn't it?
To what specifically?
Well, his initial malleability, that unchanneled energy, it makes him particularly susceptible to the allure, the false promise of the Jarndyce and Jarndyce suit.
He needs direction, and the suit seems to offer it.
It seems to, but it's the wrong kind. He's looking for something to pour his enthusiasm into, and Mr. Jarndyce points out that Richard's obsession wasn't there at the start. It was not when we opened our hearts to you. You did not say so then.
So it crept in later, an insidious development.
And exactly, like a slow poisoning. The suit, in its uncanniness, promises order, wealth, resolution. But it delivers chaos and obsession.
Despite Jarndyce's warnings, which are pretty stark.
Extremely stark. Better to borrow, better to beg, better to die than stay tangled in the suit.
But Richard doesn't listen. He gets increasingly obsessed. He tells Esther, "I have looked well into the papers, Esther. I have been deep in them for months, and you may rely upon it that we shall come out triumphant."
With this growing, almost manic conviction.
Yeah, and he starts to haunt the court,
Well,
drawn deeper and deeper in.
it's like the suit casts a spell. A false promise of wealth, purpose,
Consuming his essence.
which raises that crucial question. Why does the suit have such a powerful, almost addictive grip on Richard and others like him,
It promises so much.
but delivers only ruin, delay, obsession? Richard's transformation is terrifying. He develops feverish anxieties, loses his elasticity, even of hope. It just drains his vitality, his spirit.
And the legal labyrinth replaces everything else.
All other purpose. It twists his relationships. He even comes to blame Jarndyce, believing every new delay and every new disappointment is only a new injury from John Jarndyce's hand.
Wow. Blaming the one person trying to help him.
That's the ultimate uncanny twist. The promised solution becomes the problem itself. Hope turns into self-destructive obsession.
The longer he's in, the more distorted his view becomes.
Yes, the suit doesn't just hold him, it redefines him, transforms him into its property.
But amidst all this decline, there is Ada Clare, his cousin, also a ward.
And her love for him is unwavering, a constant, poignant counterpoint.
She says, "All I had was Richard's. And Richard would not take it, Esther. And what could I do but be his wife when I loved him dearly? Such devotion."
Even when Jarndyce, seeing the writing on the wall, tries to discourage their early engagement because Richard's so unstable.
She marries him anyway.
Yes, her commitment remains absolute. Despite the pain, the uncertainty, her selfless devotion is this pure flame against the gloom.
A contrast to the suit's destruction.
Absolutely. Ada's love highlights that genuine human connection, loyalty, care. These are the real antidotes to the suit's isolating, corrupting influence.
But is it enough? Can love save him?
That's the tragedy. Dickens shows that while love offers solace, a moral anchor, moments of peace, it can't entirely reverse the deep systemic damage.
The corruption has gone too deep.
Exactly. The system's impact is too profound. And the image of Richard's decline is just heartbreaking. His face becoming quite destitute of color, his physical wasting.
And his eventual death right after the suit finally ends.
Yes, even though in his very last moments of peace, the sources say he looked handsomer than I had seen him look for many a day, a fleeting glimpse of his old self.
Before the end.
And the sources emphasize his real happiness was found in our little room at home with Ada. Warmth, love.
Contrasting sharply with the cold, consuming legal world.
Which ultimately destroyed him. His story perfectly captures the suit's uncanny power. Promise everything, deliver nothing but desolation.
The eccentricities and shadows of society.
Okay, moving beyond Chancery for a bit, Dickens populates this world with so many unforgettable, eccentric characters.
And their eccentricities, while often funny, reveal these deeper, unsettling truths about Victorian society.
Definitely. Let's start with Mr. Harold Skimpole. Jarndyce describes him, with a mix of fondness and frustration, as quite a child in worldly matters.
A perpetual child.
Who lives by borrowing money constantly. But he frames it infuriatingly as other people's problem.
Ah, yes, the famous line. You had got the lamb and I have not got the money. I can and do really mean the money without paying it.
It's like a complete inversion of responsibility, magical thinking about finance.
And what's fascinating is his helpless kind of candor, the lighthearted manner in which he was amused by his innocence.
He seemed charming almost.
Initially, yes. He represents this self-indulgent irresponsibility cloaked in vivacious brilliancy and enjoyment. He genuinely seems to believe every man's not obliged to be solvent.
That responsibility is a thing that has always been above me or below me.
It's a biting critique, isn't it, of that artistic or intellectual detachment from practical duties, financial duties especially.
His sympathy for everything doesn't actually lead to him doing anything helpful.
Not a thing. He just consumes other people's resources, their time, their goodwill, which makes him deeply uncanny.
Looks harmless, delightful even.
But his behavior is utterly self-serving, destructive. He exploits others while staying blissfully or maybe willfully ignorant of the consequences. It's the uncanny valley of moral character.
Okay, then there's Mrs. Jellyby, the philanthropist.
The telescopic philanthropist.
Right, focused on the great African continent and her big project, Boreabulaga.
Sounds impressive.
Except her focus is so intense, so all-consuming, she completely neglects her own family. Her home is chaos.
What's it like?
Crumbs, dust, and waste paper were all over the dinner table, which was just left out, ready for breakfast. Her husband is a non-entity. Her kids are neglected. Poor Pee-Pee got his head stuck in the railings once.
Oh, dear. It's almost farcical, but also deeply sad.
It is. Misplaced priorities on a grand scale. The global completely overshadowing the local, the domestic.
And this raises that really important question about charity, doesn't it? What kind of philanthropy is this?
Dickens seems critical.
Very critical. He attacks benevolence that's so distant, so theoretical, it ignores immediate, tangible suffering right under its nose.
Like Mrs. Jellyby's perfect coolness and agreeable smile when she dismisses her daughter Cattie's engagement.
Because it might interpose between me and the great African continent, it's chilling in its detachment.
An uncanny portrayal of good intentions gone wrong.
When divorced from reality, yes. Her focus on abstract causes blinds her to the real needs in her own home. It creates this profound gap, another uncanny valley between her stated ideals and her actual harmful behavior.
Performative charity versus genuine care.
Precisely.
And poor Cattie, the daughter. She just wants a normal life. She sobs. She'd far rather have been scolded than treated with such indifference.
Understandable, so she seeks escape.
Yes, she marries Prince Turveydrop, a dancing master. It offers a path to her own home, her own family.
A bit of agency.
A bit. Though even there, the shadow of old Mr. Turveydrop, his father, with his exaggerated deportment.
Ah, the master of deportment.
Yes, that looms large. His son has to teach and fag, and teach morning, noon, and night. Just to maintain his father's dignified facade.
So Cattie escapes one dysfunction for another, potentially, but finds her own quiet rebellion.
Seems like it. Now, Miss Flight, the little crazy old lady.
Who embodies the human toll of the Chancery suit.
Yes, she keeps caged birds. And their names.
They're symbolic, aren't they? Hope, joy, youth, peace, rest, life, dust, ashes, waste, want, ruin, despair, madness, death.
And then the legal ones. Cunning, folly, words, wigs, rags, sheepskin, plunder, precedent, jargon, gammon, and spinach.
Her constant anticipation of a judgment, her belief she'll then confer estates. It's both poignant and deeply tragic.
A living monument to the suit's endlessness.
Her madness, a direct result of it. The birds symbolize everyone trapped, and she believes all the greatest ornaments of England are added to its nobility. But then the narrator adds, chillingly, I am afraid she believed what she said, for there were moments when she was very mad indeed.
Believing in the goodness of the system that's destroying her, that's profoundly uncanny.
Deeply unsettling. A walking embodiment of how the system warps the mind.
Okay, deeper into the shadows now. Krook, the rag and bottle merchant.
Relative of the greedy Mrs. Smallweed.
Lives in this house stained with this liquor filled with rag bags and other bundles. His place is just decay, neglect, forgotten things.
A physical manifestation of the stagnation, like Chancery itself.
And he can't read, right? Which is a stark contrast to his lodger.
Nemo, the mysterious law writer. Steeped in the words Krook can't understand.
And Krook's end was one of the most shocking parts of the book.
Spontaneous combustion. utterly grotesque, uncanny, almost supernatural.
What's the implication?
That the accumulation of rubbish, the unwholesome air of his life, maybe even the concentrated legal decay he embodies, all those old papers literally consumes him.
Corruption taking a literal explosive form.
A horrifying manifestation, the internal combustion of accumulated filth, forgotten legal history, and then cynically,
His property becomes a target.
yes, his magpie property, the vast lots of waste paper, the greedy small weeds immediately start rummaging and searching, digging, delving, and diving for hidden treasures. Even death doesn't escape avarice here.
And the setting for all this squalor, Tom All Alone's, described as undrained, unventilated, deep in black mud and corrupt water.
A place where Dickens warns no part of it left to the imagination is at all likely to be made so bad as the reality.
That's the uncanny valley of urban decay right there. A place that shouldn't exist, but does, defying belief in its wretchedness.
Where the consequences of societal neglect become horrifyingly real.
And connected to Tom All Alone's is Joe, the crossing sweeper.
Whose constant refrain is, "I'm always a-moving on, sir."
The embodiment of extreme neglect. Poor, ill, barely understanding anything.
Yet he holds key information about the dead, about secrets. He's the one who showed the mysterious lady in a whale.
Meaning a veil.
Right, where the law writer Nemo died. Joe represents the absolute bottom rung. Illiteracy, poverty, constant displacement.
Highlighting the failure of social compassion.
Totally. His dying words, trying to recite the Lord's Prayer, hallowed be thy, are a stark reminder of universal truths ignored by the powerful who preach charity but neglect those at their feet.
He's described as a ragged figure in a magic lantern, trembling because he's offended against the law and not having moved on far enough.
Which raises that burning question. In a society obsessed with status, property, legal battles, who cares for those with nothing, especially when their very existence is seen as an offense?
His fate is a direct result of indifference.
Making him another profoundly uncanny figure. A ghost haunting the city. A human so disregarded he barely registers as alive.
Secrets, society, and the law's grasp.
Okay, let's peel back another layer. Secrets. They seem to permeate this society, interacting with the law's hidden grasp.
And Lady Deadlock is central to this. Aristocratic, elegant.
But bored to death by her privilege at Chesneywold, she projects this image of an inscrutable being. Untouchable, emotionless.
It's a facade, isn't it?
Completely. The sources say, ironically, every dim little star revolving about her, from her maid to the manager of the Italian opera, knows her weaknesses.
Everyone sees through it, to some extent.
And she guards this massive secret. A child, Esther, born out of wedlock, given away, presumed dead.
So in public, she's childless, a stark, agonizing contrast between the persona and the reality.
That duality, that split, it's incredibly uncanny. It defines her life.
Her languid demeanor, that apparent indifference, it's all a mask for deep anxiety, suppressed emotion. She's a deadened world, wrapped in too much jeweler's cotton and fine wool.
Suffocated by appearances.
By expectations, superficiality, and the weight of that secret. Even the portrait at Chesneywold, one that fascinates Mr. Guppy.
It acts like a charm on him.
It serves as this visual hint of her hidden past, a link that, to the right observer, reveals her former self.
And her fear of the ghost's walk at Chesneywold.
Said to be haunted by a female shape, it connects directly to her own shame, her past actions. It's a premonition, a reflection of her own guilt haunting her.
An uncanny fear reflecting her own hidden, uncanny truth.
Exactly.
And that moment when she actually meets Esther, recognizes her from church, even presents her to Jarndyce, the tension must be unbearable.
Asking, has Miss Summerson lost both her parents? Knowing the answer.
The irony is crushing. Forced politeness over agonizing truth.
That's the uncanny in human interaction right there. Deeply personal, fraught secrets played out with chilling composure makes it all the more unsettling.
Enter Mr. Tulkinghorn, the lawyer to the aristocracy.
And maybe the most unsettling character of all, he embodies the uncanny.
Described as an oyster of the old school whom nobody can open. A great reservoir of confidences not to be so tapped.
He literally carries family secrets in every limb of his body and every crease of his dress, like he's absorbed the hidden lives of others.
And his office reflects him perfectly. Rusty, out of date, withdrawing from attention, full of obsolete tables and portraits of old Lord Chancellors guarding untold histories.
He doesn't just know secrets. He is secrets. His presence is a constant, subtle threat.
His imperturbable face, that expressionless mask, his ghostly manner of appearing, He's almost supernatural.
Materializing from the shadows. And his purpose seems singular, expose secrets, especially Lady Deadlock's.
Not for justice, though.
No, more for the sake of knowing, wielding power. He's the silent, watchful force driving the suspense. His coldness, his detachment. It's profoundly uncanny in a human.
A professional selling services but keeping his whole soul secret, devoid of warmth, driven only by information.
Truly alien in a world of flawed but fundamentally human characters. He's the personification of the law's unseen, relentless, often destructive grasp.
But then Tulkinghorn is murdered.
And a new force arrives. Mr. Bucket, the detective.
Who's presented very differently. Astute, resourceful, surprisingly affable.
Uses his engaging appearance of frankness to disarm people, gather information, works with a lighted bullseye lantern.
Literally shedding light on dark corners.
Illuminating London's secrets. He can enfold and pervade others like a cloud, subtly drawing out truth. He's critical in untangling the mess Tulkinghorn accumulated.
And he operates differently from the Chancery lawyers.
Completely. He goes right into the underbelly, those villainous streets, undrained, unventilated, deep in black mud, places Tulkinghorn wouldn't touch.
He connects the dots.
Like the whale, the bonnet, and the gown Joe saw the veiled lady wearing, connecting her to the sovereign she gave him. It's practical intelligence, not like Chancery's endless paper shuffling.
Pragmatic, direct, efficient. Not winding round and round like Smallweed or the court.
A force of practical, relentless justice, cutting through the obfuscation.
A breath of fresh air, almost. Is he presented as entirely good? Or are there complexities?
Well, he's certainly effective.
Yeah.
He tells Sir Leicester Dedlock, "You shall see the whole case clear, from first to last." And he does.
Arresting Mademoiselle Hortense for the murder, figuring out she planned to frame Lady Deadlock.
His velocity and certainty of interpretation is described as little short of miraculous, a rare instance of clarity and real detection.
The direct opposite of Chancery. Bringing light, cutting through the uncanny fog of secrets almost supernaturally.
He represents a different kind of power, a different kind of knowledge focused on facts, not endless process.
Consequences and revelations.
Okay, so the secrets and the law collide. Consequences start hitting hard.
Starting with Mr. Guppy, the law clerk, he puts the pieces together.
Right. The dead law writer, Hawden, or Nemo, was Lady Deadlock's former lover and Esther's father.
Confirmed by Mrs. Chadban, who helped raise Esther effectively. She tells Bucket, "But she's alive, and I know her," adding that bitter stress on the word ladyship.
That's the bombshell, the core revelation. It detonates Lady Deadlock's world.
Decades of hidden truth brought into blinding light, and her fear of discovery is immense, paralyzing. She shudders as if the hangman's hands were at her neck.
That's visceral.
The pressure from Tulkinghorn, who saw her secret purely as a tool of power, pushes her to desperation. Flight.
And that note, she leaves for Sir Leicester.
Her devoted husband. It's a profound confession. If I am sought for or accused of his murder, believe that I am wholly innocent. Believe no other good of me, for I am innocent of nothing else that you have heard.
The crushing burden she carried.
The uncanny part is how a secret kept so long, buried under aristocratic composure, can erupt with such devastating force, obliterating a whole life, a whole identity.
Her flight is frantic, desperate, through that dreadful spot, the burial ground.
With its heaps of dishonored graves and stones.
And her death there, by her dead lover's unmarked grave, found by Esther. It's the tragic climax.
The culmination of a life of hidden sorrow, and that detail, her handkerchief placed tenderly over what seems to represent her dead baby.
It underscores the horror, the sorrow, a moment where all the repressed past emerges and overwhelms her. The uncanny truth laid bare.
So tragic. But amidst this, we have Mr. George, the trooper, initially suspected of Tulkinghorn's murder.
And his loyal friends, the Bagnets, especially Mrs. Bagnet, who says, whatever the old girl says, do it.
George himself is one of the roughs, plain speaking, honest, refuses a lawyer at first, believing the mere truth won't do in the legal system.
Cynical, but maybe realistic in this world.
George is a testament to integrity, genuine connection. Despite his obstinacy, his honorable nature is clear. Willing to sacrifice himself for his brother, refusing to involve his family.
Don't let my brother know.
It speaks volumes. And Mrs. Bagnet immediately goes to find his mother, proclaiming she's worth her weight in gold. It shows their unbreakable bond, their resilience.
A bedrock of honest humanity resisting the decay.
A counterpoint to the uncanny dehumanization of the legal system.
And The moment everyone's been waiting generations for.
Yeah.
The end of Jarndyce and Jarndyce.
It's a great resolution,
Ah,
or no.
Not really. After all that time, Mr. Kinge finally admits the grotesque truth. The entire estate, the fortune, it's all been absorbed in costs.
Eaten up by the process itself.
And Mr. Voles, another lawyer, his reaction, just
Probably.
with chilling detachment.
It's utterly anticlimactic, yet devastating. The expected climax is just an empty void, no judgment, just nothing left.
The ultimate aha moment, maybe, but a deeply cynical one.
Exposing the grotesque futility, the self-perpetuation of Chancery, the great cause, the monument of Chancery practice, just dissolves into nothing, leaving only devastation.
And Richard's reaction.
Heartbroken, his declaration, either the suit must be ended, Esther, or the suitor, chillingly foreshadows his own end.
He dies shortly after.
Yes. His worn-away appearance is the literal, physical result of the suit's vampiric nature. The system preyed on him, not for justice, but for its own continuation. Lives shamefully sucked away.
The final, brutal reveal of that uncanny valley. Looks like justice, operates like a court.
But is, in fact, a monstrous, devouring maw, a black hole consuming everything.
Yet, despite all this sorrow, corruption, uncanniness, Esther finds her own resolution.
Our steadfast narrator finds peace. She recovers from the illness, though changed physically.
And she marries Mr. Woodcourt.
Who is always a source of comfort, true friendship, unwavering support. She becomes mistress of Bleak House, makes it her new strange home.
Transforming it into a real sanctuary, carving out her own happy ending.
Proving goodness and genuine connection can prevail even in the bleakest world. Her journey from unloved child to the compassionate heart of Bleak House shows incredible resilience.
The power of goodness.
Yes. And her future, with her 2 little daughters and even Charlie, the former crossing sweeper, now married to a miller, it indicates a new cycle.
Free from Chancery's grasp, life renewing itself.
It highlights that individual integrity, love, domestic stability can create that sanctuary, that rustic cottage of dolls' rooms described as lovely place, so tranquil and so beautiful.
And her acceptance of her changed face.
Saying, it was all gone now, focusing on internal worth, embodies true strength. Her story is that vital counterpoint, showing human connection overcoming the most alienating circumstances. Outro.
So as we wrap up this journey through Bleak House on the Uncanny Valley podcast, we've really seen how Dickens uses familiar things, law, charity, class, to reveal something profoundly unsettling.
That uncanny valley is the gap, isn't it, between what society claims to be and what it actually is for those caught inside its machinery.
Where even a good little orphan girl without a protector gets tangled up, and a system meant for justice delivers only destruction.
We've dug into Chancery's failures, the human cost, those complex characters like Skimpole or Mrs. Jellyby.
Who are unsettling in their own ways.
Exactly. And the resilience of figures like Esther, Mr. George. It's a testament to how powerful stories can be, exposing, critiquing.
And even offering a glimmer of hope for individual goodness.
It really compels you to look beyond the surface, recognize the unsettling truths hidden in supposedly normal institutions that, well, turn out to be profoundly uncanny.
Which leaves us with a lingering question, maybe for you, the listener. In our own modern world, with its complex systems, its information overload, what are our Chancery suits?
Things that consume our time, our resources, maybe even our sense of self, without ever really resolving.
How do we tell genuine help from, say, performative charity?
Yeah.
Real justice from endless agglomeration?
What familiar parts of our world, if we look closely, might reveal their own uncanny, unsettling realities hidden beneath that veneer of normalcy?
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. We hope it's given you plenty to consider and maybe even inspired you to delve deeper into this incredible source material yourself.
It's certainly worth it.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep understanding. This has been the Uncanny Valley Podcast.